Welcome to Believe, the Conspiracy Theory podcast. I'm Phil Green.
And I'm David Ferguson.
And this is a podcast presented by two comedians all about the world's craziest conspiracy theories. Unless, of course,
they're actually true.
And that's what we're here to find out. In each episode, we invite on a guest comedian, and that comedian picks a conspiracy theory they want to talk about. It might be a conspiracy theory they believe in, it might be a conspiracy theory they don't believe in, or it might be a conspiracy theory they think is the most mental thing they've ever heard.
True.
Yeah.
But we'll try and prove it.
We're going to look at the facts. We're going to look at the fiction. In fact, one of the reasons we started this podcast is because inside David's big old Irish head here are a load of random facts bouncing around for decades that really had nowhere to go. And now
I've got somewhere to put them.
You've got somewhere to put them. We're taking the weight off the NHS's mental health services. You're welcome, NHS. We've got social media channels, haven't we? We've got social media channels.
We have got social media channels.
We have got social media channels, which we need to plug. You know that. You can follow us at Believe Conspiracy Podcast on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. And we want to know what you think as well. So comment, tell us what you think of the conspiracy theory we're covering. And if you've got a conspiracy theory you want us to talk about, you can DM us, can't they?
Please do. Please do. We're lonely. Well, I'm lonely.
Yeah, and we want to read what conspiracies you want us to talk about. This is very much a community, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. We're all in this together.
We are. I am also on tour at the moment. I'm doing my show 4 Weddings and a Breakdown at various places around the country. There's still a few dates left in Sudbury, Bristol, Brighton, Glasgow, Liverpool, Peterborough, Southampton and Poole. If you go onto our social media channels, there's a link there to the shows, or go on to Phil Green Comedy. I'm also doing a work in progress show at Leicester Comedy Festival on the 23rd and 24th of February. So there's still some tickets available for that if you want to come. So we should also give a big shout out to our tech, shouldn't we?
We should. He's a great fellow.
He's a great fellow, the wonderful George.
Yay!
He's a geek like us. We've just been talking about this particular conspiracy for about 15 minutes. Now, who is today's wonderful guest?
Oh, today we have Rich Spalding.
Wonderful Rich Spalding, a brilliant comedian. He's been tour support for Tom Ward, for Ishan Akbar, lots of big name comedians. He's also been in lots of comedy award finals, and he's the presenter of the fabulous podcast Our Dads Died.
Which is succinct and to the point.
Yes, which is both funny and moving all at the same time, which is what we try to be and largely fail. And the conspiracy theory that Rich has chosen is...
It's not really a conspiracy, and it's just plain fact. We are living in the Matrix.
Okay, it is a conspiracy, but that's what we're going to find out. Let's bring him on.
Get out of the rabbit hole.
It's a fake. Every single bird in the sky is a robot.
It's fiction.
You doubt your government.
It's an urban legend.
Like, they're actually spraying something in the sky?
No way.
A stream of absurdity.
It's a total fabrication.
Welcome to the podcast, Rich Spalding!
Yay!
He's
Thank you very
here.
much.
How you
Good to be
doing?
here. I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk conspiracy theories with you guys.
Rightly so. You've been listening to the podcast
I have.
all day.
I've been revising,
Good.
and I'm in the headspace of essentially paranoia, and I don't believe anything around me. And it's sort of messed with my mental health quite significantly over the course of the day.
That's what we're aiming for, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you've succeeded.
Good, excellent work. Yeah. Also, Fergie pointed out before we came on that we're mirror image of each other now.
Yeah.
Because I've got the glasses now. We've both gone for the beard.
Yes.
Really, we're just blending into every other straight white male comedian on the circuit. Yeah.
This couldn't look more like a podcast.
Yeah, really.
It does.
It really could. Yeah.
We're white guys. We have a podcast.
Thank God you're here for the diversity quota.
And I'm Irish, which is a different ethnicity. No,
Yeah.
okay,
That'll do.
Fair enough, isn't
That'll do. So you're writing a new show at the moment.
I am, yes.
About
Work and death.
Okay.
Essentially.
Okay.
But funny. But funny work and death.
does this link into, because your podcast is about death?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of it's sort of come from that. The podcast is about it's me and my friend Tom, and our dads died, and we interview other people whose dads have died. But we also started talking to people who work in like the death industry.
Yeah.
So we interviewed like a mortician from America, and a parapsychologist, and a therapist, and a
Hitman.
hair worker, and a hitman. If we could get them on, that'd be great.
Yep.
I'm related to them, so like,
Yeah.
yeah, from Northern Ireland.
Good call us of your contacts.
Yeah.
Then get them on Zoom, balaclavas and all. And yeah, so I guess sort of talking to those people has made me think about death, and work sort of makes you think about death sometimes anyway. I think the process of getting up every day
Yeah.
and being like, is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And so it's sort of about that, and whether the sort of central question is it okay to just have quite a mundane, nice life? Because there's a big culture of like you always push yourself, you work harder, achieve more. And I actually quite like not being that successful and just I just quite like my little life.
Just
And
aim for mediocrity. That's what we do.
And how many finals of comedy competitions have you been in?
You've got to stop being successful if you
Yeah.
don't want to be
Yeah,
successful.
That
See?
is true.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if I became less successful than I am currently, that would be quite an achievement.
See,
Listen,
and succeeding
listen.
at
Have a goal. I think that's important, Rich.
My goal is to achieve less.
Yeah, to achieve
Yeah,
less. Yeah. Then you can never be disappointed.
Yeah, unless I become really successful.
Yeah, yeah.
And then at the centre of me, there's an ache because I'm like, God, I didn't want any of this.
It is an interesting concept though to keep chasing, right? Because we talk about like people who are successful, they keep chasing the dream. When does the dream? When do you actually realise the dream?
Yeah,
right?
this is the thing. This is what got me thinking about it all. Is like, there's loads of billionaires now, obviously, and they keep working, and they keep like some of them. Their only job is like they're businessmen, so their job is to make money.
Yeah.
And they just keep, and it's like you've got so much money, you can never spend all of this money. What do you need it for?
But then do you think that they just go like? We can talk about Musk a little bit, but do you think that they go a bit mental? Like
Oh,
like
100%.
like 3 of them, 4 of them are building spaceships just to go to space,
Yeah,
but not
yeah,
actually
yeah.
go anywhere in space.
Yeah.
just because they can.
Yeah, well, I think that's what drives you mad. Is when you've got that much money, it's like, oh, what? You can do anything.
Yeah.
Like there is no moral, legal, financial obstacle to anything you want to do.
Yeah.
So what's the meaning of life? What do you want to do with your life? And that question drives people mad.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, and then eventually find myself into the black abyss and die, hopefully.
And you're writing a show to help people solve that problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
get rich.
Don't get rich.
Yeah.
you're writing a show for billionaires.
Yeah.
I'm writing it. Well, specific. I
But
don't think they'll
to
enjoy
stop
what I've got
people
to say.
becoming billionaires. That's the point.
Yeah.
You're basically helping people provide a barrier to success.
And hopefully there'll be a beautiful irony where I become a billionaire to the success of the show. First $1 billion selling show.
No doubt.
Well, someone has to do it.
Because that's what the comedy industry is about.
It's going to happen eventually.
Without money.
Is there a billionaire? Has there ever been a billionaire comedian?
No.
Is
but
Chappelle a billionaire?
No.
He's got to be the closest though, right?
He's got to be
He would
nearby.
definitely be up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Robin Williams didn't make loads of money.
Well, no, but he had a lot of divorces, didn't he? And so he
Yeah.
lost a load of money, which is why he kept having to make shit films in his last few years. Poor
Yeah.
fella.
Kevin Hart's got to be close.
Yeah, Kevin Hart's got to be up there. Chris Rock.
Really?
I
Yeah.
guess $1 billion is a lot though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Madonna's not a billionaire, and she's the most successful female artist ever. I know she's not a comedian, but she is funny right now. So,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
She spent a lot of money on work.
Oh,
She did that stand-up set on Jimmy Fallon. Or
Oh
something,
my
remember?
god! Do you know how many times I've watched that stand-up set?
Yeah.
Oh my god! And every time I go, just be funnier, just be funnier.
Or just don't do it.
Or just don't do
why,
it.
Why do it?
Surely somebody wrote that for her. Like,
You
or
would
do you think she
but
wrote
then-
it herself?
Watching it.
I don't think they did. I think she wrote it. I think she wrote
Yeah.
it. Amongst the Madonna fans. Sorry, I'm making it about Madonna again. I'm so sorry.
Could be worse. Could be Joan Crawford at some point. They'll come
Oh,
to that.
oh, Joan Crawford. No. Oh my God, my focus is. Apparently, she wrote it herself. That's the word amongst
Having
the
watched
hyper
it,
fans.
I'd-
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like she's written
That
that.
might be where she went wrong.
Yeah, I
Maybe
don't
get a
think she's paid people
professional
for this.
comedian to write a comedy set.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
think,
yeah.
oh, I could just do this.
Yeah.
And go on national TV.
I got the feeling she didn't even write it. I feel like she just was like, I'll just stand there for
I'd
5
like-
minutes and
yeah.
talk.
She's an artiste.
Yeah.
You can just do that. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, she's Madonna. Yeah, she can do whatever she wants.
In fairness, she can. It's not ruined her career, has it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I loved it.
Yeah. So, conspiracy theories.
Yes.
Obviously, you've listened to the podcast, but you're a bit into these, aren't you?
Yeah, I have to be careful about how into them I get because I'm very extremely gullible. So I will believe if I read something, I'm just like, well, why would you write it down if it's not true? So therefore, I believe everything, and then as soon as there's any other evidence, then I believe that, and then
Yeah.
someone will. So if you two disagree on things,
Which we regularly
I'll
do.
just agree with whoever spoke last.
Okay.
So I might not be a great guest because I'm going to be all over the shop.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love them. There's loads that I really want to be true. There's sort of the dark ones, like all the more sort of modern COVID vaccine, all that stuff that
Yeah.
you're like, it feels a bit grimy. But the fun ones, like Bigfoot,
Yeah.
that'd be great, wouldn't
See, he doesn't think Bigfoot is fun. He thinks Bigfoot is real.
it? Right, but that's fun, right? As an idea. Do you think there's just one? I know that's
No.
not what we're talking
Oh,
about,
well, there's different species of Bigfoot.
right, okay. Big feet.
We've also
Big
had
feet.
this is the debate I've had, right? Is the
Right.
plural of Bigfoot big feet? You say no.
Yeah, it's Bigfoot.
Like sheep.
Yeah.
It's just right, okay.
Yeah, but Bigfoot's what we call like Sasquatch, the Alma and the swamp swamp apes and all that. Like, there's just different ones.
Of all the ones I'd like to be true, that is one of the ones.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Because they don't do any harm. They don't.
Yeah,
they don't,
Swamp apes?
Yeah.
I love the swamp. I love swamp ape. What a swamp ape. Come on, they have to exist. Come on.
It feels like they should. That's a fun one. I'd like that to be. And aliens. I'd love aliens to be true.
Would
I don't
you?
want them to come here and do stuff.
Yeah, that's
but
the thing. That's the risk. You don't know what
if
they're
they
going to do.
sort of stay a safe distance away.
Yeah.
But someone's like, we've definitely seen them. There's a photo of them on Mars playing tennis
yeah.
or something. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'm in a WhatsApp group with loads of people that
I thought you'd say loads of aliens.
with loads of aliens, with loads of people that like conspiracy theory, like-minded people. And there's someone on there that keeps on saying that they were abducted and they've been experimented on. And I've met them, and they're the most normal person you've ever met. Like, I'm weirder than them. I mean, I know I'm weird, but like, like it's just like, oh, okay, and it's a horrible feeling because when they talk about it, it's like, so they are coming to get us. Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, it has more clout when it's somebody that doesn't usually talk about mental stuff.
Yeah.
Someone that you think is pretty straight-laced, pretty normal, has a pretty normal life, and suddenly has this one thing that they say happened to them.
Yeah.
I will say I did meet them in a conspiracy theory chat room. So
Okay.
but they are like they're
Relatively normal.
yeah, relatively normal.
Yeah, because that makes it more believable. Whenever I've met anyone who's like really into conspiracy theories, they have this sort of, they're not into it as like a sort of an interest or like a hobby. They're into it like, this is my entire life.
Yeah.
Like, this is all I do.
Yeah.
And they tell you this stuff with this level of sort of condescension where they're like, oh, you're such an idiot for not knowing about this. And you're like, you live in a bin. What? Who out of the two of us? Like, no offense, man, but
that is part of it because they're part of a community, right? 'Cause once you're in like that to that level, like you said, there's a whole WhatsApp group of conspiracy theorists. You're in a community. You're part of something. You feel part of something, and it's a bit like religion or football or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's a club that you're in, and everyone else is on the outside.
comedy.
And you like comedy.
Doing comedy.
Yeah, it is, but it kind of
There
is.
are healthier coping methods.
Yeah.
conspiracy theories probably is one of them.
Would agree.
Yeah.
At least with conspiracy theories, you don't have to leave the house very often. Or be out till 12 o'clock on a Tuesday night for 20 quid in Bolton or something.
God, when you say it that way, yeah. They seem a lot healthier than we are.
Yeah. We talk about what's more mental. Anyway, so the conspiracy theory that you've chosen, Rich, is we're living in the Matrix. So we were saying in the intro, we think this is, I would say, a modern classic, right? I mean, it actually has its roots in conceptually that go a lot further back, but obviously the term Matrix was made popular by the film. So the concept of reality as we perceive it has been subject of philosophical inquiry for centuries. One intriguing idea that captured the imagination of many is the notion that our existence might be nothing more than a simulated reality, akin to the world depicted in the iconic film The Matrix. This theory, while initially relegated to the realms of science fiction, has garnered attention from both philosophers and scientists alike. The idea that our reality might be an illusion is not a new one. Philosophers throughout history, from Plato's allegory of the cave to Descartes' musings on the deceiving nature of the senses, have contemplated the nature of reality and our perception of it. The concept of a simulated reality takes these philosophical inquiries a bit further, proposing that not only is our perception limited, but our entire existence might be a fabrication. Central to the simulated theory hypothesis is the question of consciousness. If our reality is indeed a simulation, what does that say about the nature of our consciousness? Are we merely programs running within a vast computational framework, or is there something more to our subjective experience? Philosophers grapple with these questions, exploring the implications of living in a world where our sense of self might be nothing more than lines of code. So the question is, Rich Spalding, are you really here?
Oh, God. Well, like I said, I'm very gullible. You read that out and I was like, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I don't know, because I've been reading about this today, and it has, I mean, it's not, there's no evidence for it, as far as I can tell, right? I mean, David, you might correct me, but it's something you can't disprove.
There's theories, but there's no actual fact.
Yeah.
That can potentially prove it that we know of.
But there's also no way of ever completely disproving it.
No, that's the problem.
Because I thought when I first started like researching it, I was like, oh, there'll be
I love that he's researched
anecdotal evidence.
You're the only guest that's done
Oh,
this.
really?
We're finding a high
Maybe
quality
Alison
guest.
did. Maybe Alison
Of course, yeah. But I thought that there'd be like stories of, like in The Matrix, someone woke up and then came back and was like, I'm in a bath in a different world.
Yeah.
But no one's sort of claiming to have ever been outside of The Matrix. But then there's like...
Well, like the DMT experiences, with ayahuasca or what have you, like trips the people talk about living other lives and other experiences, and that could be getting plugged in and plugged out of the matrix, the simulation. But that's drugs. I don't really want to speak too much of that. But I mean, it would make sense that this was a simulation. I mean, it really would.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if there's a God, would God create this?
But then who created the simulation?
The programmers.
Yeah, but who are the programmers?
We are the creation, so we cannot know that.
But is it not just very similar to God? Like the idea that there's sort of somewhere else that is sort of controlling all of this.
Yeah.
And when you die here, you go back there.
Yeah.
And that's where you came from. It basically is just religion, isn't it? It's like science fiction religion.
It kind of is, but exactly that. Yeah, it's a belief in another world or somewhere that you come from and somewhere you go to. That's very true. There is a lot of, God complex stuff in this, I think.
Definitely.
The question is, who is the God?
Well, you can be the God. I mean, like, if you think about manifestation, you know, I've got every Instagram post I see is about, you can manifest your destiny. You know, have a vision board, and hey, maybe that works. Maybe that on a quantum level that affects things. Wouldn't that be really cool? Like if you put a picture up and go, right. I mean, what? Okay, so let me rewind. Put a pin in that. One of the very first things humanity ever did was paint on cave walls.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like after shelter and food, and procreation, pretty much the fourth thing we did was paint on walls. Why? Why was that important? And maybe it's because it helped manifest things. If I paint a picture of this ox that I'm going to be able to hunt and eat, then maybe it'll happen. So I like the idea that we can influence the quantum realm and manifest things. And if we're able to do that, does that not mean we're also in a simulation? And do you see where I'm going with this? Does this make any sense? I'm really worried that I haven't taken my
It does make
today.
sense. It does make sense. Are there things though that happened have happened in your life that make you question reality? Are there moments where...
Well, I was thinking this, like dreams.
Mm-hmm.
You go to sleep and it's like you're somewhere else for ages.
Yeah.
And when you wake up, you have to switch back to this reality.
Yeah.
And then how do you know that this is the real reality and that the weird dream I had last night wasn't? And so that, I guess, also listening to your UFO episode with Catherine Mather, I remember this is sort of more UFO than the Matrix, but it unlocked quite a recent memory that I was very excited to tell you about when it was probably only like a couple of months ago. My girlfriend and I were driving back from somewhere out of London and we were driving through Haringey, and I thought I saw like a plane quite low in the sky, but it was quite a bright light, and then it just kept getting lower and lower, and suddenly I was like, oh, that's actually really close. That's like, whatever that is going to land sort of in the street just over. And I now can't remember if I said anything to Jess. I feel like maybe...
Did she see anything? Did she say anything to you?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I feel like I would have done.
Yeah.
And then I also have this feeling of like the other people on the road were looking at it like I could, but I can't remember why I thought that. And then it just disappeared, and then we just drove home. And I don't think we ever talked about it again. And I hadn't thought about it until I listened to that and was like, oh shit, yeah, what was that? And maybe that's a UFO. Maybe that's the Matrix.
Maybe.
I can't explain it.
Maybe that
the
is
Matrix, because the lovely thing about the Matrix, what's so great about it is it explains everything. It explains Bigfoot. It explains weird phenomena. It explains UFOs. And I have to say this: so Haringey is very, very close to Walthamstow, with Waltham Forest, and one of the most significant UFO encounters in London was in Walthamstow. So it's that area. It's that because it's we're not talking about UFOs, but
that is interesting that North London is a UFO hotspot.
Yeah.
But in the Matrix theory, would that mean that that's like a weak point in the Matrix where weird phenomenon
It's
happens?
a glitch. It's something else going on, or it could be just a droid or a drone following us. It could be a drone.
Yeah,
as in
it
actually
could have actually just been a drone. That makes
because
a lot of
now
sense.
we have that. Drones freak me out.
Yeah,
and I do see them a lot because I love walking through Walthamstow wetlands, and you do see them because the police have them. They're police drones. UFOs.
Okay, so scientific perspectives. While the idea of living in a simulated reality may seem far-fetched, advancements in technology and our understanding of the universe have prompted serious consideration of this hypothesis with scientific circles. The concept was first explored in depth by philosopher Nick Bostrom in a 2003 academic paper titled "Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?" I'm guessing you know about this. Are you aware of this one?
No.
Yes, he's one of the most famous theorists on this, probably the most famous theorist on this. Although what I would say is, the timing of this being only 4 years after The Matrix is interesting. Anyway, Bostrom made a problematic argument that if advanced civilizations are capable of creating complex simulations inhabited by simulated conscious entities, then there is a significant chance that we exist within one such simulation. The seeds of the simulation hypothesis originated earlier with sci-fi stories like The Matrix depicting characters existing inside a simulated reality generated by AI. But Bostrom framed the concept as a rigorous philosophical manner that sparked serious debate on the likelihood that human reality is simulated. Though inconclusive, his statistical reasoning made a compelling case that we should not dismiss the possibility we exist within an ancestor simulation created by post-human civilization. While the simulation hypothesis cannot definitely be proven or disproven with current knowledge and technology, it raises profound questions about the nature of existence, reality, and our place in the cosmos. The notion that our world might be artificially simulated forces us to reconsider assumptions about the limits of science, technology, and our understanding of the universe.
What is reality?
Yep, that's it. Because if you were trying to explain reality, how would you explain it?
Yeah, I mean, no idea. It's
Because if this is a simulation, someone had to come up with this reality. Do you know what I mean? Someone had to program this.
so is the idea in that guy's theory that like in the future humans have developed and we're all the simulations of them in the future?
I think that's what he's saying. Yeah, I mean,
And
he's got a few theories, but that's potentially one of them.
Why are they doing that?
Well, that's the question.
Well, so there's a theory that the underpinning creation, the underpinning energy of the universe isn't energy or matter or anything like that. I know I just said the underpinning energy of the universe isn't energy, but I can't remember the proper word. The like it's not the quantum realm. It's information. It's story.
Right.
And if that's story, then everything is a simulation, and that's how we can write our own story. And I hesitate to say this because I'm not having a great time in comedy at the moment, but we're all writers, so you know about creating a universe, but that's one of the things underpinning information. If you change the information, then you change the situation, and that's one of the big things in the Matrix.
Yeah, that is very true. And the fact that, and it does reference, because I was watching it today, and I because I haven't watched it for years. I don't know if you've seen it recently.
No,
but it talks quite a lot about AI. So it talks about literally learning, and George and I were talking about this before the podcast. That's 25 years ago, and they were talking about AI, right? Now we knew AI. There was the film AI, but they're talking about I think it's the 21st, 21 something. I think it's like 200 years in the future, or 150 years in the future, maybe. And they're talking about AI becoming self-aware enough to create this world where the machines are living off human energy, essentially. I would say we've made strides towards that far more rapidly than that film predicts.
Yeah, like Elon Musk and the cranial implant and stuff. I worry that AI is the genie out of the ball, is the demon that we need to be worried about. I think we're all addicted to our phones. You know, well, what's the next thing we're going to be addicted to? You know, I like, there's things like Midjourney, which creates AI art, and I am completely against that, because all it's done is looked over the internet and stolen other artists' work. Certainly when it first started, I could see, that's a John Byrne drawing. That's I could see where it came from, George Perez, whatever. And now it's got a lot more smooth because it's learning. But I really don't like that. That's not art.
Maybe AI created Madonna's comedy routine. That's why it was so bad, because it cannot write
very early
jokes.
version.
Yeah.
Of AI.
You know.
If AI gets funny, we're fucked.
Yeah.
But this is the thing: AI can take over, and like, do we want to live in that world where there's no human endeavor? Like, and
it's the creativity part of it that at the moment is lacking, isn't it? Like, I'll be honest, it's brilliant for this. It is brilliant for digging out facts from the internet. But when it comes to actually like you said, creating art, like, I don't like AI art. It's accurate, and it's impressive in lots of ways. But there's something, like, I think we've talked about it before in one of the other episodes. There's a bit of a disconnect between that and something painted by a human being.
Yeah. It's that uncanny valley thing, isn't it? Where it's like, it looks real, but it's almost spookier because it doesn't quite. It looks too real, or it looks a bit. It is frightening. The whole, it's like with this whole Matrix thing, where you're like, why have they done that? With AI, I always think, I went to a presentation once, and the person was talking about AI and like how scary it was, and she was like, it's going to change our world. It might not be for the good. It could be the end of civilization. And I was like, why are you doing it then?
Yeah.
You're the one who's developing this AI. Just stop doing it, and then we'll all be fine.
Yeah, it is interesting that, and we're going to come on to this, there are a lot of people who have been responsible for the creation of it that are warning about the dangers of it.
Yeah.
You're thinking, well, yeah, exactly. What's your motivation there for warning us of it? It's odd. Theoretical support for the simulation hypothesis. So the simulation hypothesis has gained traction in recent years based on mathematical arguments. The basic premise is that it is possible for sufficiently advanced civilizations to create complex simulated worlds. Then it is more likely we are living in one of the many simulations rather than the original base reality. So Bostrom, that we mentioned earlier, argued in his paper that at least one of the following propositions is likely true. 1, human civilization goes extinct before reaching the post-human stage capable of running complex simulations. 2, post-human civilizations have little interest in running simulations. And 3, we are almost certainly living in a simulation. Which of those 3 would you pick?
What to be the truth that we're living in?
Yeah.
So one is this is the base reality.
Well, one is that human civilization goes extinct before reaching a post-human stage capable of running complex simulations. So we haven't got to that stage yet,
right?
And
we never will.
We'll kill ourselves. We'll destroy the planet before we get to that point.
Right.
Second one is there are post-human civilizations. Post-human civilizations have little interest in running simulations. And 3 is we are definitely living in a simulation.
Well, most likely to me is number 1.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
I don't want to make it bleak, but it looks like we've got maybe 50 years left, and then
you do a podcast.
Yeah, World War III is just around the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's really looking like we're going to knock ourselves out before we get to do any of this stuff.
We're giving it a good go, aren't we?
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to fight against the fading of the light. You got to keep going.
What do you think of those 3?
I think we're in a simulation.
Yeah,
do you genuinely?
Yeah, because there is reasons behind that. I've always had deja vu and stuff, and I understand how the brain does that. Like I'm not saying I had this experience, so therefore I know. But I was very, very ill a couple of years ago, and I had a couple of obviously lack of oxygen and fevered. But I felt like I was seeing things from really weird angles, and I saw people I shouldn't have seen, and I was going, this isn't real, and I went, it isn't real.
It's an interesting thing. I think one interesting question is to ask, if this is a simulation, why do diseases exist? Why does COVID exist?
Yeah.
Why would that?
Is that like virus in the code or something?
Yeah, literally. Because virus also helps with evolution. Like I don't know off the top of my head, but part of our genetic structure is from viruses. You know, it's also from Neanderthals, which I kind of love. Denisovans, that's great. But like part of how we evolved and how our genetic code came together was viruses. Also with weird markers in our DNA where things were mashed together, so we're genetically manipulated.
Well, do you think it is? Because I guess it's survival of the fittest thing, right? So they create viruses to find out who the strongest humans are. If we are all living in pods like the Matrix, you're finding the strongest bodies to keep the machines running, and viruses just get rid of the weak.
Oh yeah. It's a good point. It does. You can sort of explain anything with it, can't you?
Yeah.
Yes. If you just go, this is a simulation. What I wonder is, do you think this is a simulation, as in they're just setting them up as an experiment and leaving it and seeing what are they going to do, or are people controlling it? And is there is there a main
is
character?
It Big Brother thing, or is it?
Am I the main character?
Well,
are you the main character?
Well, I like to think I'm the main character.
I'd love it if you were the main character. You're the puppet master.
But as far
You're
as
Harry Potter, though, right?
You being on here as the puppet master, saying, I don't know if it's real.
I've all seen Squid Game.
Yeah.
We all know they're pulling the strings.
But we have no idea that, I can only experience my consciousness, so I have no idea if your consciousness and your consciousness is real, or
I don't know
George.
my consciousness is real.
Oh, yeah.
We might all be in George's consciousness.
Oh,
Well, yeah,
okay.
precisely.
Yeah.
But then you think, well, because that idea that you're the only real person and this is all your imagination kind of thing, that I think we all have as kids.
Yeah.
I sort of
Kids.
Yeah, and then but then you
grow up to think
you
that.
still think it, because you can never disprove it. You can never exist in someone else's consciousness. But then I always think, well, that means that in that iteration of the world, I invented the Beatles and I wrote every single Beatles song and I listened to all of the Beatles songs and went, I think they're overrated. And that's such an arrogant position to be in, to be like, I created everything.
Yeah.
I wrote Ulysses and didn't read it. So that's how I disproved that
Has
one.
anyone read Ulysses? Let's be real here. Like,
Well, I mean, I'm the only person who can read it because I'm the only real one. That's the thing. But then I wonder, if it's a simulation, there's a point to the experiment? So is there going to be like, how long do they go before they
well,
Is there a point to the experiment?
well, it's like a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
You know, what's the meaning of life, the universe, and everything? 42. What?
Yeah.
Like, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Which is a great answer.
Oh, and it makes sense.
It makes
Yeah.
as much sense as anything. Doesn't it?
Yeah, 42. Yeah, okay, right. You know.
So in support of the theory, others focus on the exponential trend in computing power and technology's ability to mimic reality in virtual worlds. If this trend continues, then in the distant future, simulated worlds should far surpass the base level of physical reality. This leads to a statistical likelihood that we are living in one of the many virtual worlds rather than a base reality. While a fascinating concept, the simulation hypothesis remains largely speculative.
Largely.
It genuinely says that. And difficult to test scientifically. Not difficult to test,
Yeah,
impossible to test
yeah.
scientifically. The theoretical support, however, prompts intriguing philosophical debate about the ultimate nature of reality. I mean, that's a fair point. There could be multiple versions of this simulation, right? We aren't
Yeah.
necessarily all living in the same one.
Well, there's definitely
Yeah.
multiple versions of the.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, whoa, Phil, Rich.
yeah. In Rich's life, he sees UFOs.
yeah. But there, it could be infinite different simulations, right? And sometimes that's quite comforting in a way,
Yeah.
because sometimes
You're all
it
in
helps
the
to
same
feel
one.
like you're a tiny part of the world, and then the universe is massive, and you're like, it doesn't really matter. And then if you're the tiny part of one of like billions and billions of different simulations, and none of it's real, then it's like, well, it really doesn't matter what I do. I should kill someone.
Well, and we're going to come on to that because that's an interesting. It's an interesting debate, that one. So, tech billionaires' views. Several influential tech billionaires have expressed interest in or support for the simulation hypothesis. Elon Musk is one of the most vocal advocates. In 2016, he estimated the odds that we are not living in a computer simulation as 1 in billions. Musk believes advanced civilizations would use simulations to explore their history. Admittedly, he did say all of this before he went mental. Like, he had credibility at this point. This is
Right.
before he called the people who rescued those kids from the cave paedophiles and built a rocket and threw Twitter in a bin and set it on fire.
Yeah.
What's X now?
But it's X now, yeah. So Peter Thiel, PayPal co-founder and early Facebook investor, has shown interest in the hypothesis as well. At a 2016 conference, Thiel said that the simulation hypothesis explains the high number of unlikely events that have shaped history. Other tech leaders to open the idea include Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Paul Gilding. Their interest often stems from the immense technological advances made in virtual reality and artificial intelligence. With the exponential growth of computing power, creating convincing simulations seems increasingly possible. Still, many of these leaders admit the hypothesis cannot be proven either way with current knowledge and technology. Much more progress in fields like quantum computing would be needed to test it thoroughly. Their openness highlights that even top industry experts cannot completely rule out the possibility we live in an advanced simulation. It is interesting that these tech billionaires are warning of the dangers of this, but these are also the tech billionaires that are creating virtual reality,
Yeah.
which is a simulation within a simulation,
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah.
That's a head fuck.
Like a mirror against a mirror.
Yeah.
You know, it's a one on to infinity.
But I guess that's the thing. If the idea is that we progress to a point where we create these simulations, then in this simulation, are we going to progress to a point where we then create simulations and then they do it, and then
Yeah.
and so it's just endless.
Exactly.
Oh God.
The Russian doll thing. Which simulation
Yeah.
are we in?
Yeah, which layer?
Do you think it started with The Sims?
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
I think everything started with the Sims.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
so.
they're actually in charge of us.
They're in charge of us, yeah. Oh, the irony of that is wonderful.
You took the ladder away from the swimming pool. I swam for 5 years.
But maybe that's it. We've tried to kill them so many times that they're like, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they created the Sims in this simulation to see how we would treat them.
Yeah.
Saw the way we treat them and were like, right, here we go. Global warming coming your way.
Yeah, yeah. We are sadistic beings, though, aren't we? Like, Everyone who's played The Sims has tried to kill a Sim.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Or make them have sex.
Or make them have sex.
Yeah.
I have not done either of those things.
Really?
And it's not like I'm so special, but I've too much.
We should point out, in The Sims.
In The Sims.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, in The Sims, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I haven't had sex or killed anybody in real life either. But like, I've never done that in The Sims because I have too much empathy. Like, I am like the person in the swimming pool. I'm like, I have taken the ladder away, and then the feelings of guilt and remorse and horror that I felt, I was like, he has to get out of there. And I can't play The Sims.
Yeah, you're a better person than most.
I'm not saying a good person. I'm just a pussy.
No, I think you're a good person.
Yeah.
You've got so much empathy that you couldn't even kill a pretend.
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
But then we're all pretend people, apparently. So
we're all in the matrix.
It's a good point.
What always gets me about that stuff is there's always a massive if in all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with, well, if in 1,000 years this happened, then it's probably quite likely that we do. Like Elon Musk's thing of like, he's estimated that chances of this being real are 1 in a billion. It's like, based on what? Like,
well,
it's not
exactly.
proven.
Yeah,
he's just throwing out numbers, and because
Yeah.
he's rich, everyone's like, he knows what he's talking about.
That is
But
true, isn't it?
It's just, I could just go, no, actually, I think the chances of this being the base reality are 1 in 8. And then if I was a billionaire, people are like, well, he knows what he's talking about. So fair enough.
Yeah.
He has money.
There's as much evidence for that as there is for what he's saying.
Yeah. But anyone that has a platform, and we talk about, like, we're talking about you writing your show, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could, when people come in to see that show and you present a number of ideas and people, whatever you say, you walk out, people believe the things that you've said. You could have told them anything, right? But largely, if you do it convincingly enough, they believe. That's on a small sector. When you have this level of power, this level of wealth, this level of influence over not just the people that use your technology, but governments as well. The question is, are you just fucking with people? Is it just a God complex thing? You just want to see how people react to what you say, or does he genuinely believe it?
I reckon he believes it.
Yeah, I think he believes it.
But
Like, Elon Musk is, I think he might be.
He's an odd dude, isn't he?
Well, of course he is, like that.
And we're comedians. That's saying something.
yeah.
But like he told Bob Iger to fuck off, and I kind of liked that. It kind of made me like him,
But nobody knows any more than anybody else. Even like quantum physicists have no more idea of whether or not this is true than we do.
Yep.
And so it's sort of, that's what makes it the perfect conspiracy theory, because it can't be disproven and it can't yet be proven.
We've at least found the perfect conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah.
That's why the Matrix hits so well, because it gives you a name for it, it gives you an explanation for it. Like the idea that we live in a simulation isn't a new thing. There's other the Matrix used sets for a movie called Dark City, which was the year before the Matrix came out, and it was the same idea that we lived in a simulation.
I do remember this.
Yeah, Dark City is a really good film, especially if you see the extended director's cut. But like the Matrix was what hit, and it explained things, and that's why all the sequels are awful, because they are, and I've watched them. I've watched The Matrix on a regular basis. I'm going to see The Matrix in a couple of weeks' time. It's at the Prince Charles Cinema. You should join me.
I'd like to. I haven't seen it in years.
It's so good.
I think after this conversation, it's going to completely change the way that I watch it. It might be terrifying.
I just love it.
I find, and I've said to Rich before, I watched it again today, and that's the first time I watched it for years. The most interesting part of it is that first hour-ish where they're explaining everything, right, and conceptually how this happened, how it all works. When it gets into like the fighty stuff at the end, it's actually less interesting, which is why the second and third one are quite boring, because it's just essentially battles in the future. That's all it is, really. It may as well be Star Wars, but it's so interesting as a concept, and that's what sucked everyone in, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That, and he had a really fucking cool phone.
Yeah, yeah, and that helps.
Also, and Carrie Ann Moss is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. When she's kicking ass at the beginning, and
yeah, she is great.
I mean, obviously, I love Keanu Reeves, and that's who I'd rather play with. But Carrie Ann Moss is so beautiful. I love the film, and I hated it when I originally saw it.
Did you?
I really saw. I went to see it with two friends, and we came out. Everyone was buzzing, going, "Oh shit!" but I watched it again a couple of years ago at the Prince Charles Cinema, and for nostalgia. I mean, I went with those people, even though they aren't in my life anymore. And I went with those people. And I was 20 again, or 18 again. again, whatever age I was when it came out, and I absolutely loved it. Like the Prince Charles Cinema showing it 3 times in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to each episode. I'm going to each one. It's the same movie 3 times. So, because I like watching things.
We need to do all these podcast recordings, I think.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm talking too much. But the Matrix, what that gave was a language to talk about conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
And about being red pilled, about being blue pilled. So I'm not red pilled, but I'm definitely not blue pilled.
Which one's which?
Red pilled is your eyes are opened and you see things for what they actually are.
You wake up in the Matrix.
And blue pilled is what
you just go on living.
Carry on.
Yeah.
Like us. Yeah.
What would you take if you had to?
If I had to, I say my life is okay now. A couple of years ago, definitely the red pill, no question. But now life is kind of okay now. In fact, good. In fact, happy. Like, we're doing this podcast. This is fucking great, right? Like, this is part of my life now.
You'd be blue pilled now.
I think I'd be blue pilled now, but up until very recently, it would definitely be red pilled.
Okay.
But in that moment, maybe I would go red.
Yeah, because it's very much dependent on the moment in life, isn't it? What would you
Blue pill.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
a coward.
Yeah.
And things are fine.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to know.
risk.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. I mean, there's loads of, even if none of you are real, I like all of the imaginary people here that I spend time with.
Yeah.
And it'd be such a risk to then be like, because we don't know what these ancient humans are going to be like.
Yeah. True.
What if it is just Elon Musk?
Yeah.
And it's like, come and hang out with me.
Yeah.
I'm really weird.
That is hell, isn't it? That's actually hell.
Yeah. He's just made Twitter the entire world.
Yeah.
Oh,
And you can only
God.
speak in 280 character sentences, and it's probably worse.
Yeah, it probably is. That said, Rich, aliens clearly are out to get you specifically. So
They're coming for me.
Yeah, they're coming for you.
Yeah, that is the
There's
thing.
that to bear in mind.
So I might be asked the question quite soon.
Yeah.
Do you want the red or the blue?
Yeah.
No,
Depends what you've seen when you're driving along.
Well, it was red. The light that I saw was
See?
red.
See?
So,
Yeah. I work when the Matrix came out. I had a Saturday job at a mobile phone shop, and people kept coming in asking for the Matrix phone. You know, the Nokia slide. It was a 90. I can't remember. It was like 9110. This is how geek, something like that. And when it came out, like we had queues out the shop for it, and I was like, you know, this doesn't actually open the Matrix, right? And they're like, well, we want the Matrix phone. Which, like, it was a terrible phone. Like, it broke all the time.
Do you remember how brilliant Nokias were? Do you remember they were like,
and it was cool. Like, you press a button and it.
yeah, that was cool. I didn't realize that was a real phone.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I don't think
they made it because of the film.
They made it because of the film.
Okay, right.
Yeah. I think it was a concept, and everybody wanted it. So Nokia were like, well,
Makes sense. Yeah.
They ruled the world then, didn't they?
Oh yeah, Nokia. I imagine being Nokia, thinking you would never get thrown off that, and now like,
And they gave the world Snake.
they give it what?
Another simulation.
Yeah. So, brain in a vat scenario. The brain in a vat's thought experiment proposes that an alternate reality where brains are maintained in a vat and connected to a supercomputer that feeds them a simulated virtual reality. In this scenario, the brain would have no knowledge that it is just floating in a vat and not actually perceiving the real world. All sensory inputs to the brain would come from the computer simulation. Even the brain's own sense of having a body is just part of the illusion. Philosophically, this raises the question, how can we be sure we're not just brains in vats, with all of our perceived reality being an artificial simulation? Some theorists argue there is no conclusive way to disprove the brain in a vat scenario. Shit. The simulated reality could be programmed to seem as real and consistent as the actual physical world. In fact, if the simulation is good enough, even scientific experiments intended to detect anomalies in reality may be fooled. The brain in a vat argument is relevant to simulation theory because it establishes the difficulty, if not impossibility, of proving whether we are in a simulation or not. If advanced future civilizations did develop extremely high fidelity simulated realities, the people inhabiting them may have no detectable way of discerning simulation from reality. So it could just be our brains. But then wouldn't really matter, would it? Right? If whether it's your brain in a vat or your body, as a la Matrix, who gives a fuck? Unless you actually want to wake up.
Yeah, waking up would be scarier if you were just a brain. Wouldn't it? That would be quite a morning.
Yeah.
Would your eyes be attached? 'Cause you know where the optic nerve?
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
No.
They'd be floating as well.
Yeah, so brain with the eyes, but everything else is gone.
Yeah, and you'd look down and be like, "Oh shit!"
You'd be fucking useless to Morpheus, wouldn't you? Like he wouldn't be waking you up, would you?
That's the risk of taking the red pill.
Yeah.
Is you wake up and you're just a brain in a jar.
Yeah.
Well,
And then you kind of go back and they're like, well, how are you going to take the pill? You haven't got a mouth.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Keanu Reeves lost all his hair, so
Yeah. Yeah, and he had a lovely hair.
He did have lovely hair, didn't he?
He did.
Still does.
Yeah.
Still does.
He's beautiful, man. Beautiful man. Well, that is something that's talked about in the movie about like there is a certain point where you're too old to be taken out of the Matrix, and even you, Rich, who's the youngest one here, you're too old to be taken out of the Matrix.
Am I? What's the age?
You don't ask a lady that. I'm older than him, and he's older.
No. What's the age at which you're too old?
They don't say that in the movie. They don't say.
Yeah,
that.
they don't
right.
say that, but they do reference that. Yeah.
Because Keanu Reeves, Neo, he's too old.
Right. He looks quite young in that. So.
Yeah. But he was in his 30s by then. Like Keanu Reeves always was a bit older than you thought he was.
Yeah, I think though I'm physically older than Keanu Reeves is now, probably. So I think I'm probably too old to be removed from the Matrix, and I like it that way. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah, you've taken yourself out of the equation anyway. So that's fine.
Running. We won't be conscripted.
If this is a simulation and they're watching it, do you think they get nervous when people start talking about this stuff? Because presumably they don't want us to find out. Do you reckon they're watching being like, Dave, Phil and Rich, we've got a situation.
Maybe we should put this behind a paywall.
Yeah.
This specific episode.
The omnipotent creators, they can't get behind that paywall. I'm not joining a page.
Okay, so evidence for simulation hypothesis. Some scientific, you asked about this earlier. Some scientific observations have been interpreted as evidence that we could be living in an artificial reality. Here are some key examples. So quantum mechanics. The theory of quantum mechanics describes subatomic particles behaving in strange, unpredictable ways. Some argue this could be because our reality is simulated and small glitches occur at the smallest scales. So, like you said, glitch in the Matrix, which they do cover in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Astrophysical measurements. Astrophysicists have calculated fundamental physical constants like the speed of light or the mass of protons that seem finely tuned to allow for life in our universe. This fine-tuning resembles how parameters are set in simulations. So I think that's what that's suggesting is, how is everything perfect, right? For us to live, to us to exist in this scenario? Because, I mean, the odds are pretty tiny, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're the universe where life happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair point.
And the universe is massive. So the odds are tiny, but it's such a big thing that at some point the odds are going to be like, well, it's got to happen eventually.
True. Infinite monkey cage.
Exactly, yeah.
Computational limits. There seem to be limits to how finely we can measure and divide space and time. This could be because we live in a pixelated matrix within with a finite resolution, much like a video game. Oh, so there is an end to this.
Oh, yeah, there's a final level.
We complete it.
Fuck.
How do we know when we complete
Wouldn't that
it?
be weird? Like competing on a, like
Yeah.
there's that episode of Rick and Morty where there's a life simulator. And Morty goes into it and he can't, I've lived my life. I had cancer. I survived. I was a carpet salesman. And then Rick is going, oh, why did you do that? Like, so like imagine living that life. I mean, but people talk about this, having situations where they dreamed another life, and there's documentation about it, and then they come back and go, oh, what was that? Yeah. Was I a dog that dreamed I was a man, or was I a man who dreamed he was a dog?
Rick and Morty genuinely asks some important. It's brilliant. I absolutely love it. I think it's so interesting, and like it's not just based on nonsense. It's based on some level of fact, isn't it?
Yeah. At least the first two seasons are very solidly based on proper things. Once we get into the third season, we're starting to, bit awful. But the first two seasons blew my mind.
Pickle Rick.
That's based on a real thing that happened.
That
happened. A guy I know that happened to him.
Yeah. Fact. Anecdotal evidence. Some report experiencing glitches or deja vu in reality, interpreting these as artifacts of a simulation. However, these experiences are subjective and prone to cognitive biases. Deja vu. When I watched The Matrix the first time, I don't know if you were the same. Deja vu was the thing that made me want to believe it, or like semi-believe it, because I was like, oh yeah, how do you explain deja vu?
Yeah. Well, there's an explanation that I'm going to butcher now, which is that you have the short-term memory and the long-term memory process things differently, and it's that normally things go through the short-term memory and either into the long-term memory or they're discarded. And in deja vu, it skips the short-term, goes straight into the long-term. So when you experience it the first time, it's being processed by the wrong part of your brain, so you experience it as if you've already experienced it.
You explained that beautifully.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I have never heard explained that well. Like genuinely, like, oh yeah.
That's interesting.
And that makes sense by what we've all decided
Yeah.
is how the world works.
Yeah.
But another way is that it's a glitch in the matrix, and that's more fun.
It's so
isn't
much
it?
more fun, isn't it?
That's so much more fun.
Yeah, stop bringing your facts, Vic. That's not what we brought you in for. Again, evidence against simulation hypothesis. So several logical and scientific arguments challenge the likelihood that we are living in an ancestor simulation. First, creating such a complex simulation would require astronomical computing power and energy far beyond what humans can currently achieve. The processing capability needed to generate a simulation indistinguishable from the base reality appears feasible now or infeasible now or in the foreseeable future. While computing does continue to advance rapidly, the scale of advancement needed to simulate complex consciousness and reality itself remains distant. Additionally, there is the question of motivation. Why would an advanced civilization want to create such a simulation, and how likely is it that a simulation advanced enough to do so would choose to? The hypothetical rationale behind creating an ancestor simulation, such as for research or entertainment purposes, fails to provide a convincing case such a simulation would actually be commissioned. The simulation hypothesis also raises difficult philosophical questions about consciousness and reality. If base reality is just a simulation, what created the higher level of reality, and so on. So a bit like you were saying earlier. But that is an interesting question. Why?
Yeah.
Because
You got to fill your time, I guess, haven't you?
yeah. Well, I mean, look at the things that we find entertaining or we find enjoyable. And I'm not being horrible here. Like I love watching cartoons. I'm an adult. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not talking like
Morty.
Rick and Morty. I'm not even talking Rick and Morty. I'm talking about like Filmation cartoons from the 80s. Like, you know, He-Man saying I have the power has gotten me through some dark times, you know, and like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I am in my happiest place when I watch that show. It's a terrible cartoon.
I love that. But then I think there's something about, did you grow up with that as well, right?
I don't remember that one,
Do you
but I
not
remember
remember?
watching
No,
it.
it's because you're much
Yeah.
younger than us.
But I think the cartoons you grew up with, at the time, you think it's the most amazing thing. And
Yeah.
you look back on it, you're like, oh, it's not that good. But
Yeah.
there's something
But
nostalgic.
nostalgia
Yeah.
feels great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a weird thing. So the last cartoon I really fell in love with was Young Justice, and I was an adult when I watched that, and I have watched that especially during lockdowns. My God, I watched that over and over again. Have you ever seen Young Justice?
No.
It's the best tour of the DC universe. Oh, I'm getting off on point here, but it's just great. It's young superheroes, Robin and Superboy and Superboy. So Superboy is Con-El. He's the clone of Superman, but he also has the DNA of Lex Luthor, which is a lovely queer reading of it. Lex Luthor can't have Superman, so he created a clone where it brought their DNA together. And Con-El is just a great character.
So is he good and evil at the same time?
No, he's gay. Well, that you have to watch the show.
Has he got hair?
Yeah.
He does.
He does have
Very
that.
handsome boy. Very handsome boy. There's a lot of fanfic art of him in very little clothing, but Con-El's a great character. The Young Justice version of him, which is the cartoon, not the comic book, which is a different book. Anyway, I'm getting off.
That'd be a real moment for the creators as they're watching the simulation and there's some guy drawing like fan fiction of a Lex Luthor clone having sex with Superman. And they're like, why are you... I've spent
That
so
exists. That exists.
We
Rick.
put
I
so much
promise
work
you.
into this, and that's what they've done.
They've
with
all
it.
got their own character, and they're like comparing what your character's been up to, and they're like, "Yeah, he's doing the weird fan fiction again." Yeah, what's yours is a billionaire. Oh God.
I mean, like if we look at the world now, it does feel like weird fan fiction. I mean, Liz Truss, come on.
Yeah.
That wasn't real.
Well, as we
Who's that
said,
in service of?
it's interesting
wants
that these billionaires were saying they were saying this in 2016, right? Which
Yeah.
is really where the world went to shit. I mean, I'm not saying it was great before, but there was definitely a turning point, right?
Yeah.
2016, something shifted.
Yeah.
In the Western world, yeah.
Because there is a conspiracy. Why were they all coming out? Because they had a forum about this, right? They got together and were warning about this. And you just thought, admittedly, they've got the money to just get together and shoot the shit anyway. But it is interesting that it was that particular year.
Yeah. And that again maybe suggests that they're watching.
Yeah.
And they're like, they're onto us. Let's
Yeah.
start fucking shit up. We're coming towards the end. Let's wrap this up.
Well, I mean, like
over.
if you think about Occupy Wall Street, that was all about getting financial parity, and then all of a sudden there's the we have the recession. What was it? The credit crunch, and now we're constantly talking about identity. But we're not talking about the rich people that have too much money and hoarding all the wealth. We're not talking about Occupy Walks. We're not talking about those things.
Yeah, okay.
And I think,
distraction.
I think that's very, very interesting. And I'm not saying that everything's hunky-dory and that we don't need to talk about, our place in the world and everything. But it's funny how the rich never, ever get called to order.
Yeah.
And it's the upper middle class that really are the ones that get taxed. And like what have they changed the retirement age to? It's going to be 71.
Mm-hmm. Well, now.
Yeah. I'm tired now.
Rich is going to be 100 before he.
Oh God, yeah. By the time I get there, I mean, I won't get there. Let's be honest.
You won't, because the aliens are after you.
Yeah.
Implications if simulation hypothesis is true. So if the simulation hypothesis turns out to be true, it would have profound implications for our understanding of reality, consciousness, and what it means to be human. Again, no shit. Yeah. At a philosophical level, it would call into question our most basic assumptions about the nature of existence. Are we real beings with free will, or just characters in an elaborate video game? Is there a higher power controlling the simulation? Do we have souls, or are we just bits of code? These ancient questions about the meaning of life and our place in the universe would need to be re-examined. For society, the revelation may be incredibly destabilizing at first.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't write this. Major religions would struggle to adapt their teachings about God and the afterlife to the idea that reality is synthetic. People may feel confusion, anxiety, depression, or an existential crisis upon learning their world isn't authentic. I kind of feel like we're quite a long way along that road anyway.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But imagine if you didn't have an existential crisis upon finding out that you were living in the Matrix, and you were just like, nah, fine, whatever. This hasn't changed my view of the world.
No.
Going to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
Has it really affected it?
Well, it would be interesting, wouldn't it? Because I guess if you, there is things like, so what?
Yeah, it doesn't change anything, I guess.
Yeah.
What does it actually mean? Yeah.
However, the simulation theory doesn't necessarily mean life is meaningless. We still have our human experiences of love, joy, relationships, and more. In fact, some may find comfort knowing there is order in the universe, even if it's digital. Our simulated lives could still have beauty, purpose, and value.
Yeah. It's us that makes things worthwhile.
But I guess in this scenario, we're not in control of any of it. So they're making things worthwhile and putting it in our heads.
See, there's part of you that thinks, well, maybe they're not that bad. It's like they've created a simulation, but if things are all right in your life,
that's a very good proviso. If things are all right in your life,
exactly.
It's very subjective.
Like there's terrible things happening in this world and keep happening.
Yeah,
but is it like the controllers, for whatever reason, they put some Sims in the house watching TV and having a nice meal, and one sim in the pool with no ladder.
yeah.
Different versions of the same game.
Yeah. I mean, I one of my favorite things to do is watch a horror movie. Terrible things happening to people I actually quite like a lot of the time.
You still wouldn't leave a sim in a pool.
I still wouldn't leave this. Well, it's a weird thing. I love a horror movie, but I wouldn't want it to be real. That's maybe why I love a horror movie.
Yeah, and you're not doing it as well when you watch a horror film.
Although I have gone fucking kill, like there's a I can't remember the name of the horror movie, but I love every time Freddy Krueger kills someone. Like it's just once you get into Dream, like Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Like I love those kids in that movie, and I love every one of their deaths. Like, have you seen Dream Warriors?
No. All
right, Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one, and Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors are two of my absolute favorite.
I would agree they're the two best ones.
I love Dream Warriors.
Yeah.
And I think it's just great
because it's not more of the same. It's a different angle on it.
So good, so good. And the deaths just so welcome to prime time, bitch. I like that kid, and I still love her death. I really do like it. She suffers like she. And here's the link. Lawrence Fishburne is in Dream Warriors.
Whoa, that's how he pulled it back.
There we go. We thought you were going off pace there.
No, I
completely found his way back.
Oh, this man has to edit so much. Oh.
It's fine. It's improved my editing skills, let me tell you. With time, society may adapt to this new paradigm, but it would fundamentally change how we see ourselves and our place in the cosmos. We would be faced with difficult questions about the nature of our simulated reality and have to reorientate our perspectives, goals, and priorities. Our curiosity about the world would likely be renewed as we seek to understand the broader context we find ourselves in. Would it, though? Would it change your goals?
It's interesting because it depends what your goals are, I suppose. I guess if it was provable that this is a simulation and when you die you're just out of the simulation, your consciousness is deleted and that's that, then anyone who's religious would... There are certain people who live their lives in a way that means when you die you get a reward.
Yeah.
And if it was provable and you could convince them that that reward didn't exist, then it would change the ways that lots of people live their lives, I suppose.
Yeah, really would.
For me, I don't think it would change anything because as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't really matter whether when I die I'm a number that switches off or a soul that evaporates into the ethos or whatever. So it wouldn't necessarily change a huge amount of my life, I don't think. But then would it make you look at other people differently? Because you feel real, but if you knew that everyone else wasn't real, would you be like, yeah, I'm not going to listen to you, mate, you're not real?
I think this is the thing. Once you've sown not even the seed of doubt, but the knowledge of that, there's that curiosity. We were talking about this before the podcast, but that seed of curiosity of wanting to know, well, what is it? What's on the outside?
Yeah.
But you don't want to. If it is a red pill, blue pill situation, you know, there's no coming back. Would you take it? Because you'd always be walking around curious.
Yeah, that's explored in the first Matrix movie with a Cypher and stuff.
That's right. Yeah, so the one of the guys as part of Morpheus's team betrays them, goes to Agent Smith, and wants to go back into the Matrix and forget everything.
Right.
And
such a good character.
It is a really and I as soon as I watched it today, I'd forgotten about that character, and that's it's interesting they brought that in because actually. That is a big question, isn't it? Like there would be people, because is he necessarily wrong to want to go back? Not really.
So I don't think that he is. I have a lot of sympathy for him.
Yeah.
I also, because I think he's a great actor, you know, that scene with the steak.
Yeah.
I know this is not real. I'm like, I love all that. Can't wait to see it again. But then there's the massacre in the building. So the very famous shootout, all those people are getting killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're lined into the Matrix, but their lives are getting actually snuffed out.
They are.
And I'm like, well, is that okay? You know, like just because you have a higher understanding of things, like my perspective on things, you know, you're heterosexuals, you know, you should be wiped out. But you know, we need you to create us. But that
at the moment,
yeah. That's why we all love Connell. Sorry, but like, my big problem with the Matrix initially was how many people got killed. I'm like, you can manipulate reality and all you can think of is guns.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the punchline of the movie.
But that's what I mean about the fact that the first half of it is so much more interesting, I think, than the second half where it's just shooty. Anyway,
I love the shooty.
It is. They're great sequences, and also at the time because the special effects were so.
Oh, they hold up.
Incredible, and it's still good. Like, it's still impressive film to watch.
It's better than the sequels. Like, I just love the film.
One of the things that I read today, doing my due diligence,
rightly so,
was to do with consciousness, and there was some guy who thinks that consciousness is proof that this is a simulation because there's no reason they can't explain what consciousness is or why it exists. And he said it was like a video game in that if you're playing Grand Theft Auto or something, then that character has to have a certain level of consciousness so that experience passes on to you. That has to be a person with a reaction to certain things. They have to sort of take things in so that you can take things in. And so the idea is that we have a consciousness for a different purpose, for like whoever is in control of all this to experience what we're experiencing. And so while we're experiencing what we think is like a full experience of life, there are these higher beings or whatever they are who are experiencing even more through us, which then changes you if you're like, well, this isn't the full extent of consciousness, but somebody else is getting the full extent of consciousness.
So we're just brains in jars. And they're getting the full experience.
Well, are they the brains in the jars, and we're like their avatars?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's interesting. Brains in jars is space saving.
Yeah. It's a good solution.
It is a good solution.
In the end.
Yeah.
And you're in a solution.
See, we can do jokes. Ethical concerns. While the simulation hypothesis raises fascinating philosophical questions, there are risks associated with fully believing or seeking to prove we are living in a simulation. First, convincing oneself that reality is not real could lead to nihilistic attitudes, depression, or reckless behaviors without concern for consequences, like we were talking about with losing religion. If life is just a simulation, does anything we do really matter? Secondly, aggressively seeking to test or break out of the simulation, if one exists, could have catastrophic unintended consequences. We do not fully understand the nature of our perceived reality, let alone the motives and capabilities of potential simulator creators. Meddling with the foundations of reality could put humanity at risk. Finally, evidence that our world is simulated could cause massive social upheaval and shifts in how humans relate to meaning, identity, and purpose. The transition could be very psychologically and culturally destabilizing. I mean, I think that's fair to say that's true.
Yeah.
Like, people would go nuts, wouldn't they?
Yeah, you'd
Just
imagine
start
so.
smashing shit. If nothing mattered.
Yeah.
Nothing does matter.
Yeah.
But that's the other part of the argument, isn't it? Why, if it's a simulation, why does it matter any less than it does now?
But then there are some people that would still think, well, the simulation is fine and therefore the order in which society runs in is worth conforming to. And others would think, well, fuck it.
Yeah,
None of it matters because it's not real.
Yeah.
I don't think there'd be any. I'm not saying there wouldn't be a shock if it was somehow proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. I mean, there's people that believe God exists. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I've met those people. I grew up in Northern Ireland, but even so, it's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt we're in a simulation. What does that really mean if we can't affect it? But if we couldn't use the fact that if we couldn't use the knowledge that we're in a simulation to affect the simulation, you know, how does it change things? Like, if we find out we're in a simulation and we could fuck shit up, or, you know, like have the life that we want teleport across the universe, I mean, that would be great, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would change the fabric of society. But just finding out that we're in a simulation, it's not reality. Well, so what? You know, I still have to go to work.
Yeah.
You know,
But would you still go to work? That's the thing.
I wouldn't, but that's because I'm not employed. Right?
While the simulation hypothesis is fascinating, we should exercise caution how deeply we allow it to shape our worldview and behaviors. Believing in a simulated reality could negatively impact mental health and relationships. I think we can all unanimously agree on that.
Yeah, that checks out.
The simulation hypothesis presents an intriguing philosophical question about the nature of reality. While we may never know for sure if our universe is a sophisticated simulation, examining the proposal leads to fascinating lines of inquiry. The possibility that we exist within an ancestor simulation forces us to reconsider our assumptions about the physical world and our own consciousness. Some might find this notion disturbing or nihilistic, while others argue embracing the idea could make us more empowered. Either way, contemplating that we may inhabit a simulation opens up new perspectives. So, you think we're living in a simulation?
I do, yes.
Okay.
But that's just because I agree with my buddy Elon.
Okay.
He's not my buddy.
Rich?
I mean,
He said it last.
yeah. There's no evidence, but as a theory, it makes sense. But deep down in my heart, I don't think it's real. I mean, I think this is real. It's hard to explain.
Yeah.
I think this is real.
You don't
and
think
that
it's real. You
theory
think it's
isn't real.
Yeah.
We don't live in the Matrix.
Okay. I agree with you. I think it's going to be technically possible at some stage in the future for it to happen. But, well, actually, I think we might destroy ourselves before we get to that point. I think
Imagine if that was the moment where suddenly it all just like dissolved and they were like,
Yeah.
no, you were wrong.
Yeah. We're like,
David was right. He
fuck
gets
it.
to come live in our world and you guys are deleted from the Matrix.
Exactly.
Bless you.
Rich, would you like to tell people where they can find you, what you're doing, everything about you?
Yes, I am doing some work in progress shows in London and Brighton and hopefully at some point other places in the country for this new show that I'm writing, which is called Gather Your Skeletons. And there's one
Great name.
February 23rd at the Pleasance, which might have gone by now. Otherwise, they're all on my Instagram, Rich Spalding 11. Because there were 10 previous Rich Spalding created in the Matrix before me. I was the 11th version. But they're, Hoxton, Brighton, Waterloo, and some other places. And it will be messy because I'm still writing it and some of the bits aren't working.
But it will be great because Rich is a great writer. He could have created the Matrix. We don't know. Is he the Grand Overlord? Would you like a Matrix joke to end the podcast?
I'd love one.
Of course you would. What do you call a matrix on the Matrix?
I don't know.
A dominatrix.
Yeah.
That's the end of the podcast. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Please like and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. The more lovely subscribers we get, the more episodes we'll make. And follow us on Instagram and TikTok for regular updates and exclusive videos at Believe Conspiracy Pod. We love you. Bye.